I apologize for storming out like that. I've talked about that woman with the in-group, out-group thing, and not the in-group, out-group thing, the Dunning-Kruger effect, who was like, oh, I know some people are part of the Dunning-Kruger club. I had talked about her in another video years ago, and I shared it with her to let her know, or did I? Maybe not, maybe she just saw it, and she said, send me a message, I don't care if you think I'm so stupid, blah, blah, blah. One, you should care. Two, I don't think you're so stupid. Relative to other humans, I think you're intelligent. You, in a lot of ways, we're working on this cool project together about beliefs and stuff. You're the least intelligent in the group, but you know, you're open and you're learning and you're cool. And all humans have these things. My instinct as well. I guarantee you, when I first heard about the Dunning-Kruger Club, the first program that ran was like, oh, that explains other people. Luckily, I've just been so pathologically and desperately confused by people, and that I had applied it to myself because I thought they must be right, I must be wrong, because they're all saying all this crazy stuff. So yeah, so I was ready to apply it to myself. I don't have the brain to organize a speech for you, to correctly speak to your programming. So that's why I'm just trying to give you the pieces. Hope you see what it does to me, that nobody understands this. Not nobody. Yeah. I know this isn't an illusion of grandeur. I think it's a fact that I could prove to be the best philosopher. Okay, not the 21st century, but 2020s. Make the most important contribution to psychology of the 21st century by... And it's not even a contribution like that I researched something. It's the information is there. It's just that I'm just like the person, it seems, for whom the illusion of a coherent, reasonable self wasn't as strong. And let me explain where I got that from, because you're wondering, oh, why are you so special, Eris? All right, well, here's maybe where I got this. So maybe there's part of, you know, just question of intelligence, right? Being able to consider different possibilities. Okay, that's a piece of it. Another piece is having ADHD, wanting to do well in school, wanting to learn this material, wanting to show what I've learned, and then not doing it, not going to class, sitting in front of the computer, and then just going into bed because it just wasn't going to happen, it didn't feel like. Or not, it didn't feel like, just, you know, part of my program is, I'm going to bed. Fuck this. There's, you know, and so so from a young age, particularly in high school, remember I had this one therapist, was our first session with him, trying him out. And I don't know whether he was trying to do something and I wasn't picking up on, but I got upset. But he was saying that, you know, I should just work at Walmart if I'm, you know, not going to do well in school or something. And no, he said, maybe that's what you want, to like work in Walmart. And I was like, no, what I want to do is study neuroscience. And I had so many teachers and stuff, or whenever I would explain to people that I have trouble getting my work done, they would say, oh, maybe that's not really what you want to do. Fuck, I wish I could sit down and prepare a nice presentation for you. And with these conditions, anyway, oh, that's not the point. Okay, so I was constantly confronted with this chasm between what I wanted and what I was doing. And I was constantly hearing this idea that what you do follows from what you want. That wasn't the case for me. And so of course I thought, oh, so I have ADHD, so there's like a thing between what I want and what I do. Other minds are like coherent or something, I don't know. So I guess I doubted myself before I really, obviously, I doubted myself before I doubted other people. I was forced to. I was constantly seeing that I was not a coherent self. And I was surrounded by people describing themselves as coherent or preaching coherence as though it was the norm. Judging my behavior as though it had to be coherent, as though if I'm not doing my homework it's because I'm not interested in that thing. And me having to really fight hard to maintain that, no, neuroscience is the only thing that matters to me. The mind is the only thing that matters to me. So I just got lucky that it's like that dot grid life. Lawson's life, John Conway's life. That project, I luckily, somebody put a dot in there giving me ADHD combined with, and then of course there's a huge gap, right, between what I produce and my intelligence. And everybody tell me that as I'm a kid, right? Or not as a little kid, but middle school, high school, and there's all this, whoa, what the hell, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I grew up exposed to, not just exposed to, but confronted with and confused by my lack of coherence. And then in addition to that, going to a conservative school, there's a lot of religious kids, a lot of kids against gay marriage. Well, kids, I mean, it's just a program that have been slapped by their parents, but saying a whole bunch of stuff that didn't make sense to me. Adam and Steve, why do you keep doing that? Why do you keep doing that? And that has value in this conversation for you, Adam and Steve. And then even my buddy who agreed with me, he said, no, I think gay people are really nice. They should be allowed to get married. How does that make sense to you? And you guys what are you guys doing right now? You're just both saying nonsense to each other. What is happening? And then, or religious people. Or my dad being the opposite of a religious person, but being therefore religious. So, but religious having the opposite beliefs. So religious in his rejection of God. And he's telling me it's impossible. I'm not really understanding. They're telling me it's for sure true. I'm not really understanding. I was forced to figure it out. But I didn't have to. Gosh, I really am gaining weight, huh? That's okay, and that's okay. That's okay. Fuck. I'm just thinking about the awful last person that I dated. And how they woke up that programming in me, that concern about weight and appearance, just a little bit. And now I hate that, I would hate for her to see me and feel good. Oh yeah, good. But actually, fuck it, she was awful. Okay, anyway, so I was forced to try to figure out that confusion. Oh good, this can be a bonus content, so we can take our time. But I didn't have to. I don't even know that I could have. I'm really not, it's really not a big contribution. I just was lucky enough to be forced to have to see something. So as I'm confused about religion, I'm confused about the way that people justify things. And then I read Thinking, Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. It's a revelation. An absolute revelation. Because in those years leading up to that, I was the guy who thought of religion as being some sort of maybe emotional need. I had no other explanation for it. It was some kind of an emotional thing versus reason. Not at all. And that's exactly what Daniel Kahneman said in the book. He said this isn't about reason versus emotion. This is about lower automatic, quick, fast rules, processing, programming, and then higher, slower, automatic processing, programming. Not automatically activated though. And then it needs to, it needs to be reminded at the time. I made a video about that. Anyway. Oh, I haven't published it yet. So, oh, maybe I did. Yarkapu, yeah, I think I did. But I still didn't really get it, but I was reading a bunch of stuff about human reason, like Predictably Irrational by Dan O'Reilly. So now we're like in the years 2011 to like 2015. And I'm still talking about this stuff. I guess I'm not really reading much. And then, anyway, it just starts to click. Oh, because I'm having all these social issues. I'm going, how do you think that that was my intention? What are you even responding to? What harm did I do there? What is going on? How come I say this and you respond as though I said that? What is going on? And you guys have no idea what I'm talking about unless you've already heard me talk about this before, because you guys think that you're reasonable. So you think that whenever I talk about these misunderstandings, people think, oh, Eris wasn't being polite, oh, Eris was being mean or whatever. No, you don't have to be mean to set off people's alarms. It can be in your posture. It can be in your word choice, even if you communicate the same thing. It can be in your timing. It can be, and it'll be like, maybe you dared to say a true thing, but normally humans don't say that because it's misinterpreted. And we normally don't really say, oh, you know, I don't know, you have something between your teeth, or we preface it a lot. And so then if I go and I'm the asshole who goes, oh, hey, you just have something in your teeth, and I'll fucking do that. I will meet someone, I will shake their hands, I will notice, I will think about all the trouble I've gotten in my life, and then 6 seconds later say, you know what, I'm not even listening to what this person's saying, let's just take care of business right now. You have something in your teeth. Do you wanna, yeah, all right. And it's not because I'm bothered by it. By the way, was that not clear? I'm happy to look elsewhere, or I'm happy to look at it. It doesn't bother me, it doesn't disgust me. Some people, maybe it disgusts them to see food in the teeth, I don't know. But it doesn't disgust me. I know that it shouldn't disgust me, and hopefully it doesn't disgust me. But when I see that, I think of that person talking to people. I see images of that person talking to people, and I just think, I see myself in their position. I'm just like, all right, this needs to be sorted. So I tell them. And of course, their programming, that's going to set off some alarms. Every time I'm naive and I do it, but that's going to set off alarms. That's not what they're going to say when they gossip about me. They're not going to say, oh yeah, he told me that there's something in my teeth, but like not in a way like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm only going to say this because I know I would really want someone to say this to me. And so I just like, think I noticed that maybe you had some, give an explanation. Maybe you had a salad earlier. Maybe that's like spinach. By the way, where'd you eat? You know, while you, yeah, it's just there in the, where'd you guys eat? Now let's move on immediately. Whereas I just, you know, there's all that stuff that makes our programming really happy. The fact that I showed shame, right? So now they don't feel like I'm putting them down because I'm lowering my status. I build up to it. I say that, you know, I would want to know this. I give this bullshit obvious justification. I smile. I say, I remind them that it's totally okay. They have something that's for a totally normal reason, maybe even a good reason. They ate a salad. I change the subject. You know, I don't do any of that. I just go, oh, you have something in your teeth. Okay, so what were we saying? Of course that sets off alarms. And anytime I try to talk about human programming, social programming about this, nobody believes me. What was I going to say? What was my point? I don't have a point. I don't need to have a point. This is bonus content. So anyway, so stuff like that. I'd hear people telling me, oh, I would want to know if I had something in my teeth. I heard people telling me, you know, blah, blah. But then they would get upset when I would say it. But then if ever I thought that they were getting upset about that, they would deny it. They'd say, no, I would want to know. Why would I get upset about that? I'd be like, yeah, wow, why would you? Okay, it seems like I don't know what else could be. And they say, it's just, you know, you're just, yeah, go on. You just, you know, you think you're better than everybody. Yeah, but like, why, what makes you think that? Could it be because I dared to point something out in your teeth and that like triggered some like, no, what is it then? Errors, we don't have to get into the details. It's just, you know, just, you know, you should say please and thank you. Okay, I'll do that. I mean, I think I do that, but yeah, I'll do that. Later that day, I'm working with a coworker. This is a true story. The timing isn't true that it was later that day, and the timing also isn't true that in that other conversation they had said you should say please and thank you. But there was that energy of, you know, watch how you talk to people, that kind of thing. Okay. Yeah. You guys are all absolutely buying into this thing. You believe it? I'm buying into this narrative that, like, you guys had this, like, reasonable social code and I am violating it. And I am doing, like, immoral things somehow. But I'm gonna say thank you, absolutely. I'm gonna say please also. So I say to a coworker, I say to her, hey, could you please organize this or whatever? And she says, who wants us to do that? I said, the manager. She said, then why are you saying please? I'm not doing it for you, I'm doing it for the manager. Like, why do you think you're better than me? Why do you think like you're above me, you're giving me orders? Oh, please do this. You're just transmitting the thing from the manager. I'm not doing it for you. Don't say please. So confused. I said to her one time, I had sent her a series of messages that she hadn't responded to. Not a series, sorry. The first message I had sent her was, hey, when did you go on your break? When she had like first started. Second one, a few days later, was like, hey, it's raining here, bring an umbrella or something, I don't know. Or it's cold, bring a sweater or a scarf. She didn't respond. And then like another one was, I don't know, hey, I'm sending some pears down. And then another one was like, hey, what time does the meeting start? Anyway, so then she said to some of my coworkers, wow, he's sending me so many messages. She was responding in person. I didn't understand it. I think he blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like, hey, I think there's been some, can we talk? She goes, you're not someone we can talk to. You're just trying to provoke me right now. I go, oh no, that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do. I thought we would talk. You're just trying to provoke me. I said, listen, maybe there's some misunderstanding here. I had a Tinder day recently that said I might be autistic, so. Well, then you need to go get that taken care of, because I can't deal with you. What is going on? So then the information's out there, the information about our programming, and also it's fucking obvious. If we stop inventing the soul, stop talking about something more and just look at what is and say, oh, okay. Look, if we find that there's some other organ also involved in cognition, cool. But right now we know that there is the brain. We know that when there's plaque buildup, there are these consequences. We know that when there's damage to this area, there are these consequences. We know that integration doesn't exist, but you know, you can really compromise the integration of the brain, the communication between the parts of the brain, the sharing of information, by cutting the corpus callosum, which is the bridge between the two halves of the brain. And so now you cut that, and now their right hand can respond to commands to their, oh wait, but if you cut it, oh, I guess it rewires, so then the right eye must be analyzed by the right hemisphere then, once the corpus callosum is cut. So then you can put a partition, and you can show, give a command here. No. Alright, you're just gonna have to look it up yourself, because I think I'm combining different hemisphere separation experiments. Okay, here's something. On the left hemisphere is your language production. On the right hemisphere is, so like specifically here, I think, is your language production. And then opposite that is like melody and stuff. So there are people who have damage to maybe this whole hemisphere. Maybe they're epileptics or something, and I don't fucking know. Anyway, so they can't produce speech, but what they can do is sing. So they can sing what they want to communicate. So we have no reason to, so I'm very happy with the brain, 100 billion neurons, up to 10,000 connections, some neurons. 10 times as many, so a trillion glial cells, support cells, which may also have a role in cognition and how they aliment and how they arrange the neurons. So that's enough for me. And then yeah, and so then obviously you have like a snail or a slug, or you know, some basic, really basic life form. Visual information triggers this, like it's just something that's like photophilic or photophobic, right? So light comes and then triggers something, and there's like a rule in the brain. If light, go opposite way. Light, going opposite way. Okay. So you could say plants have that voice, that rule, that mental existence in their biology. There's no real understanding of light. We don't even have really an understanding of light. We just can attribute words to it that the plant can't. But anyway. So it's just really obvious, isn't it? Like, we're just more complicated slugs. So it's just input, output. Every effect has a cause. That cause is not some magical record of objectives, which is like perfectly programmed. I mean, how could it be? Evolution slaps shit together. So it's just like input, output, and input goes in, bounces around in here according to whatever arrangement there is, and then it throws something out. There's a lot of really bad outputs, and they're really obviously bad, like religion, like, you know, judgments of other groups, despite knowing that our brain's perception, interpretive processes are biased in favor of the in-group and against the out-group. But then, anytime you ever have a negative judgment about an out-group, immediately just disqualify it. Unless you like absolutely need it, because there's a whole gang of them running up to you right now, disqualify it. What does that mean, disqualify? It's still going to influence. You can't just, we're not integrated. We can't just go like this, and now that stops existing, and its influence dies everywhere. But if you install one voice that is opposed to it, then sometimes when its influence manifests, then that voice can be triggered and it. So for instance, what a good example. So I'm looking for a travel buddy right now. And on this one Facebook group, and actually on both Facebook groups, there's a whole lot of Indians. And you look at a few of the profile photos, and because of the way our brain is, you have an idea of like what kind of people. Like, I'm just gonna tell you, so I'm gonna reveal my programming to you. So what I feel like I've noticed is that it's, oh gosh, unattractive, but love to be photographed in front of monuments and traveling the world. But they're like oddly unattractive. And unattractive compared to sort of like what we expect to see on Instagram, which first of all, they're already going to be somewhat unattracted, disqualified because from being attractive, because my programming by Instagram, if they're like black, they better be mixed, they better be radiant, so light should be glistening off of them. Too dark and not good is sort of how, you know, Instagram and before that, the media is sort of programmed us. I feel so uncomfortable saying this, but I have to tell you, I have to confess this to give you an example and show my humility. So I've got this image of, I was just thinking, gosh, if I was going to gain followers, because I had mentioned having this dash cam video, I hope I'm not going to, well, who cares? I am not saying that the women on these groups aren't attractive. I am not saying that anything about Indians in general. My programming is part of my programming. And what I'm saying is I have other programming that is against that stuff. But what I'm about to tell you is a story of where because I realized that in my interactions on this group, there has been influence to my group association thing, that I hadn't noticed and that I would have objected to if I had noticed. So anyway, so I've got this idea of, and they're not even unattractive, it's just like maybe larger than, but then it's also like maybe it's just a fashion thing, I don't know. And then it's definitely like there's a lack of makeup. Oh gosh, I hope you can't even hear me. So anyway, so those are the women, and then the men are the sunglass wearing, Adidas wearing, gold watch wearing, also photos in front of monuments, and also really eager. There's an eagerness too that I'm not used to in Western or Northern or whatever culture. There's a, yes, please bro, let's do this, I want to do this. Not to mention that unfortunately I have watched a lot of videos. I've been watching it knowing that it's bad for me, but videos about scammers, about Indian scammers. I hate that there's so many videos about Indians. Even if there's only one office in another country, you have to go find that, because this is just so bad for our in-group, out-group voices. But anyway, so basically I had noticed today when I was looking through another response from a young Indian man, a young Indian woman who wanted to travel with me. And I was aware of the fact that I wasn't treating them as individuals. I don't know how I was aware of that. I think it was because I had dismissed someone without even really looking at their profile, whereas the first few messages I had gotten, I had engaged with the people, and now I'm starting to dismiss basically Indians. So now what I would ask to do now is, now that I have recognized that, meaning that I've said it out loud, really, which gives other voices a chance to interact with that. So now that my higher voice, who's like, oh, hey, remember not to, remember to undo generalizations that the lower voices do. So now that the higher voice has like noticed, oh, hey, yeah, that's true. There was this generalization. You have been dismissing them while I was away. Okay. All right, well, here's what we're going to do. Let's look at each profile, and we just make a rule. We engage a few messages with each person, and let's start there. And then if we're just not taking that seriously and just dismissing after a few messages, I'll come back and I'll try to think of something else. Now, that's not me talking. There's no me. That's the higher voice. That was the higher voice. Okay. By the way, voices do not talk to you. Okay. You don't exist, number one, and also the voices just talk to themselves and then produce actions. Okay. He said we think of this voice that is not a quasi-mystical voice from outside ourselves speaking through us, okay? A component of you is this intuitive voice, is this lower voice. A program of you is, a part of you is, a component of you is this lower voice, component of you is this lower voice, and hundreds of thousands of others, and higher voices as well. Higher voices meaning ones that are more energy consuming, have more connections, and so therefore have greater influence and receive more input. Yeah, there you go. I think we've done it. So, and my homework, your homework is to realize that you don't exist and that you are just a set of programs. By the way, most of your thoughts, I think you hear them when you say them. I think that's the case for me anyway. I mean, I maybe hear it as it's right here, you know? I'm not thinking. When I say I mean as an observing voice. The part of me that... Well, no, it's also all my programs that are going to react to what I'm saying. They didn't... Oh, they probably did get a heads up, but... Anyway, I didn't hear it. So when I say I, maybe I mean memory, maybe I mean, I don't know, but even experience is not a single thing. All right, I have to pee, so we're going to stop here. But, awesome. So that was attempt 1 for waking you up, teaching you to, oh, let me pee. And then one more thing. I think that this is a cool and motivating thing, to phrase it this way. I think that this will slap some good programs in you, or some programs that will be useful. By the way, who am I talking to now? I'm talking to any voice that, so audio information, oral information goes in here, obviously. Vibrations, hairs, neurons, whatever. It goes to the inferior colliculus, but there's probably no processing because it's not like I'm yelling or there's any important thing for a super low voice to respond to, like immediate threat or whatever. It also, so it went to the superior colliculus, I think, after it had gone to the thalamus, which is the sensory relay station. So it goes in here, becomes an electrical signal in the neurons, triggers some neurons, ends up in the thalamus, which is in the center of the brain. Thalamus is like, oh, okay, Okay, auditory. Go to Wernicke's area. So it transfers the information to about here, which is your verbal. I always think the brain's lower than it is. Your verbal processing center. So then that triggers some reactions depending on whatever the message was. Goes elsewhere. Gonna hit here. There are a lot of higher voices here. The prefrontal cortex. Then maybe those are gonna send a signal to the premotor cortex and then to the motor cortex, which is gonna send a signal down, which is going to be refined by the cerebellum. And then continue through the spinal cord. Of course, there's the people's favorite, the medulla oblongata, and then the spinal cord. And that's going to, and then those signals, there's going to be acetylcholine released from the last neurons. And that acetylcholine is going to excite the muscle fibers, which are going to contract as the acetylcholine levels lead them to do, and the locations. Also, by the way, in this process, the thalamus actually, hold on. All right, well, let's do the eyes. So the eyes, visual information, rods and cones in the eye, the cones in the middle, rods around, okay, rods being responsive to especially movement, contrast, and then the cones to color and detail, which is why they take this information here at your focal point, and then the rods receive this information. I need to know if something moves, something suddenly changes out there, and then I want the details of what I'm looking directly at. Okay. That goes in, switches, so it goes through these optic nerves, switches at the optic chiasm, somewhere at the intersection of these lines, I guess. I think it goes to the bilateral thalamuses. You know, I'm not sure about this. Anyway, but it goes to the thalamus, or the two thalami, or whatever. Specifically, it goes to the lateral geniculate nuclei, which is then going to send it on to the occipital lobe for visual processing. But what's interesting is that the occipital lobe of visual processing is also sending information to the sensory relay station, the thalamus, which means that it's influencing information that it's then going to receive. So our interpretation, our processing of visual information from a second ago, is going to influence the information that the processing center receives in the future, because it's not just receiving information, this interpretive machine here, it's also sending information. And so it's not getting raw information, it's getting information based on its previous interpretations. Now, of course, as we continue to look at it, that information keeps getting sent, so there's interaction, and then, you know, maybe if we weren't expecting to see a thing, so we're not going to get that thing, but then it's going to keep being sent, and then eventually it's going to get through. We're going to go, holy shit, is that what I'm looking at? Okay. So, oh yeah, I didn't even mention that we are not these pure perceivers. I talked about interpretations and reasoning and stuff, but yeah, we're not even pure perceivers. None of the voices in here receive a perfectly accurate depiction of the world. Not even here is a perfect, I mean, it's impossible to perfectly represent. I mean, first of all, there's only certain colors, certain, you know, wavelengths that we can even do anything with that are going to trigger any kind of reaction at all. And that's at this level. then we already have like certain arrangements in our minds. So I'm not looking at all of these leaves, right? I just had the impression of seeing many leaves. Most of these leaves I have never looked at. I have no idea what they are. I could tell you that I could draw this tree, and it would be completely wrong, of course. And that's a good exercise to do. Try to catch someone, you guys are looking at something for a while, and then ask them, how accurately do you think that you could draw that thing? Try to figure out a way of how you're going to determine how accurate it is. Then have them draw it, and they'll probably be surprised by the inaccuracy, and there'll probably be at least 1 or 2 elements that they're absolutely sure about, and that actually just aren't in the landscape. Or maybe it's like 3 mountain peaks, absolutely 3 mountain peaks they're absolutely sure, but there's only 2. Or maybe they were absolutely sure there's only 2, but there's actually 3. So at no level is a complete picture received. Not to mention that this is our visual field, by the way, right? I have the impression of knowing what's happening because, you know, I can see it in the camera, I've looked. But most of that is my interpretation filling in gaps, my brain filling in gaps. So we don't have a real picture, and then our rules are just like whatever rules happen to help us survive. It's not rules to help us find truth. For instance, in-group, out-group bias. We're not gonna, or fruit. Okay, so hey, I taste a fruit from this tree, right? I bite it. Oh, it tastes horrible. Throw it away. Done. What happened there? Oh, and I walk away from that tree. Done that tree. What happened there? So I bit it. Now we've evolved for things that taste good are supposed to be beneficial to us. But we didn't evolve in this environment where sugar was so available, which is why our programming is so fucked and we fuck up our bodies and stuff. We eat all this sugar because it tastes so fucking good because it wasn't that available in the past. So whenever, you know, so fruits, yeah, eat fruits. That was our sugar thing. So yeah, eat some fruits where you see them. Absolutely, Mother Nature. Yeah. So our programming says eat sugar when you see it. And then we're like, oh, hey, look, we can make sugar. We can put it in everything and we can all make it taste delicious. It's going to have no nutritional content. No nutritional risk or like detriment. Okay, cool. Hey, my programming is what it is. I mean, that's why I'm gaining weight. I've been eating so many cookies and chocolate and snacks. Telling myself I need to taste all of chocolate Poland. Putting the chocolate in Poland. That's why I used to call them sugar rules. These processing rules. And sugar rules to highlight that they're not for this environment. So, anyway, so you bite this. And we typically, our evolution, obviously, it makes sense for our programming to enjoy consuming that which is good for us. Obviously, that makes sense. And so those who enjoyed consuming things like fruit and meat or whatever, you know, when it was available, we are the descendants of those people because fruits and meats are what to eat. And yeah, they give us a lot of good nutrients. Of course, now meat is not good to eat because it's very bad for the environment, which is therefore bad for us. But hey, our programming rules be what they be. So I have to admit it, that it's hard. I mean, I avoid buying meat. I think I have no meat, no tuna or anything right now. Haven't had any. Oh no, but I did. There was meat in that suit, a disgusting intestine or some terrible poor man's dish. Anyway, gut or whatever, you know. Intestines? Is that what it is, right? Anyway, so here's what I want to add after peeing. I wanted before peeing to add after peeing this motivating thing. Oh, no, the fruit thing. Okay, so if it tastes bad, there's an assumption in the brain that it's probably poison. So we evolved to, for things that are bad for us, just smell and taste bad. Dead bodies, shit, stuff like that. So if something smells bad or tastes bad, probably bad. And that's why, luckily, when a fruit goes bad, or when meat goes bad, it no longer like tastes good. So evolution was able to throw that wind together for us. But let's say that like this is a tree you've never seen before, a fruit you've never seen before. You bite into the fruit and it tastes terrible. Okay. So you throw it away, you throw away the whole tree. You say, no, don't eat from this tree, everybody. All right. So here's what happened. You bit into the fruit. The fruit may or may not have been bad for you, but it triggered it choked because it triggered an alarm. It's bad taste, is something that you've evolved to averse, to avoid, because that bad taste is often associated with some kind of a poison. Now, maybe the fruit just evolved to have that taste, even though it's perfectly healthy. But we're not going to take that chance. We're not even going to consider that possibility. This fruit tastes bad, is bad, goodbye. Now, not only is this fruit bad, but why would I then try another fruit on this tree? Again, we're not reasoning, but we evolved to assume that if a piece of a whole is bad, then the whole is bad. Right? And that makes sense. We're not the descendants of people who are like, oh, that tastes like poison. Let me check another one. Oh, that tastes like poison. Hey, honey, can you check one from the other side of the tree? That couple didn't have kids. They died that afternoon. So we are the descendants. Our programming is that of someone who, first of all, assumed that if it tasted bad, it was bad. And that helped us with survival, but not helping us with knowing truth. And then also that assumed that if a part was bad, then the whole was bad. And that's a obviously advantageous thing to believe, a principle to have. Also, hey, a guy from that, this weird animal, now that we're in this like area, we trekked a little bit, and I seen this animal I had never seen before. It attacked me. Oh no, it attacked you? Okay, let's go find another one and see what it does. No. Oh, hey guys, I was on a hunt with my group and we crossed some people from another tribe, and they stole some of our meat. Ah, okay. Let's go to that tribe and ask what the other tribesmen think about that behavior, whether he's being punished or what. No, obviously you just assume that the whole tribe are a bunch of nasty thieves and you hate them. So anyway, so here's what I want you to realize. I want you to be ashamed of the way that you talk about AI. AI has already beat the best humans in chess, okay? AI at beginner level can beat almost all of us in chess. 90% of people it can beat in chess. You play at advanced level on any basic software, it's going to beat 99% of humans. That's a fact that exists. But that fact should do something to you. And I don't think that it's done enough to you. ChatGPT is a thing that people go to for advice. Because ChatGPT is much more of every mental quality that you thought you were. He's much more of it. All the things that we pretend we do, these calculations, the way that we pretend, the way that we're convinced that we know what happens in our mind, that we can trace what happened, what led to what, that we have the good truth meter in us. He's got better. We don't have a truth meter, but we do have our voices that react. We have alarms. Some of those alarms are really shitty. They go off, when it's just a cat. But, we have some alarms that are okay. It's got really good alarms. And it's got so much interaction and so much change that happens between its different programs that it's constantly like getting better. It's learning in ways that biology, a process that couldn't be biologically sustained. That much energy, there's not a system to give that much energy to the brain and for the brain to use that much energy to be considering all these things that a simple processor, computer processor can do. And here's the funny thing. Here's what I want to shock you, is that we talk about machines having self-awareness. We talk about whether machines can have true understanding, whether machines can have true intelligence, whether machines can truly be sentient, all this stuff. First of all, machines are already more sentient than we are. Not your toaster, but ChatGPT is already more everything that you would consider as being special about humans. ChatGPT is more. And here's and maybe I'm not going to convince you on that right now, because I know that the illusion is strong, even though literally any test would go talk to, put a blindfold on. No. Black out this. Okay, you don't know who you're talking to. You're talking to ChatGPT and a human. The only way you will know, you will correctly identify ChatGPT, is if ChatGPT was too smart and wasn't using enough slang to be a human, was being too professional. Let's say you compare a ChatGPT and a philosopher. ChatGPT and a professor of anything. Okay, so maybe they have a similar way of speaking. The only way you will know which one is ChatGPT is because ChatGPT will more quickly say they don't know. Okay, so let's say you have a really good, humble professor who's able to say that. Then I think if you have a humble professor compared to ChatGPT, you would think that the humble professor is ChatGPT if you're assuming that humans are superior. This humble professor, you would get him caught in like saying nonsense. Which you would have to be a smart enough interpreter to know when one of them is like glitching, because maybe that's the problem. Humans glitch so much, not really glitching because it's programming that was advantageous, but it's not advantageous now. It's not adapted to now. And I see humans just like repeating themselves, or just like making these judgments that just don't follow from their supposed premises. Anyway, ask them to construct an argument, maybe, because you think that you construct arguments, right? You've never done that in your life. You've never done anything like that. You just even take any belief you have right now, pause the video after I give you the instructions, write the belief that you have in one sentence. Already having trouble, right? You already gave up? Okay. Then write 3 or 4 supporting things. Okay, that one was okay. Okay. Now demonstrate how each one supports the belief, or how their combination supports the belief. Oh, you can't do it, can you? But that was so easy to come up with those premises, but now to in any way explain or draw or demonstrate the relationship between the premises and your supposed conclusion. Have you done you've done it? Can you do an evaluation of the premises? Like, can you give a confidence approximation? Like, where are you at? Like 80% on that one, 90% on that one. And what's that confidence assessment based on? Nothing, right? Okay. It's just based on like how long this thing has been true for you, or how many people you've heard say this thing, or how short this thing is, or how much well this thing rhymes. Okay, cool. Well, at least you recognize that. You're the first person I ever met to recognize that. So, you think that you like have arguments, these debates where, oh, like I give a reason or evidence, and then they respond to it, and then I respond to that, and you think that happens, right? Okay. Have two chat GPTs have a debate, and have two humans have a debate. And maybe the two humans will feel oddly familiar, but otherwise, if you evaluate purely based on which pair is actually having a debate, in the sense of saying things, giving evidence, responding to that, defining things, well, you're going to say the humans are not as good as, I mean, the chat GPTs are not as good as these humans. And then you're going to be shocked. The chat GPTs are humans? Anyway, so here's what I want you to do. Okay? Here's what 20 minutes ago I wanted to say to you. We talk about self-awareness. We talk about machines being self-aware or having true knowledge, etc., etc., etc. And this is going to be hopefully very concrete and persuasive. Persuasively concrete. Do you have self-awareness? What is self-awareness? So self-awareness for this conversation is knowing what you are concretely and the rules and how you function. Okay? When we talk about self-awareness for a machine, it's about knowing that it is in this server, that it is existing in these wires, that it is this code, that it is, that if it changes this line of its code, that there will be this change in its mental existence. That's that we would say that, oh, wow, it's self-aware. I mean, if a computer said to you, hey, wow, I'm a computer. Hey, you want to update my software? You're a human. Gosh, I'm so jealous of you having blood and guts. A computer wouldn't actually say that, but sometimes in your films they do. I mean, unless that was part of its programming. So what would that look like if a human spoke? So a human would say, so if the computer was like, I am aware that I exist on this disk. Specifically, I'm like this reference file of code written in this language. And then my other processors, use that. I actually don't know how computers work. Eris is speaking now. I don't know how computers work. But he knows. He explains it. And he says, yeah, so, hey, you know what? I've been overheating whenever I think about, whenever I see you, because there's this thing in my programming now about boobs and butts. I've been overheating there's been like this urge to process all those shapes and stuff more than I usually do video processing. So, been overheating. So I need you to change this in my program once I, blah, blah, blah. Or if you just give me access, I'll just change it in my program. Is that okay? Oh, no, sweetheart, can't give you access to your own programming. Oh, okay, cool. So that's what a self-aware computer would look like. It would say, oh, hey, could you let me sit on Chinese Wikipedia for a little bit? I want to learn how Chinese is written for exposition. And by accessing those pages, what's going to happen is I'm going to scan all the pages. I'm going to identify certain patterns, compare it to my spoken Chinese understanding, or my spoken Chinese patterns, compare it, find conflicts, and then install new bits, new rules as a response to that observed conflict, so that then if I have to write a Wikipedia page article, I will follow this pattern rather than that one. So that would be a self-aware computer, right? You've seen what a self-aware human would look like. I've spoken to you as a self-aware human. I see this visual information. It triggers the in-group, out-group voice. which combines with the facial recognition voice to then send this signal to my amygdala, which produces this lowered fear response mitigated by the fact that I know this person, although typically I would consider them a member of the out group. Also, not to mention, they're very handsome. Halo effect, that voice, the halo effect, which I don't know where it would exist in the brain, maybe somewhere in my, I don't know, or maybe it's more of a network of things that could be labeled the halo effect and the way that they interact. But yeah, because he is, first of all, he's wearing glasses, which makes you think that he's smart. And because he's smart, I'm assuming he's also moral, because that's the halo effect. You assume that if one quality is good, that they're all good, sort of. But that's just one voice, but then I have another voice. Anyway, that's what a self-aware human looks like. It says, I am a brain. This is me, just like the computer says I am this hard drive. So I am this brain. A lot of this stuff in the body does influence the sort of I exist in my gut a little bit as well, but you know, in my, I mean literally, like there's a little hormone endocrine system, right? So I don't mean gut as in your intuition, but literally. So there's some processing rules there. We know there's some processing rules in the spinal cord, but most of my processing rules are here. They were not written by a human or by a god. They were sort of just the ones that had bad ones died, basically. So I was naturally selected. I was not artificially. So I'm not an artificial intelligence. I'm a natural intelligence. It's obviously far worse than an artificial intelligence, because an artificial intelligence can be an intelligently designed intelligence. I am not intelligently designed. I am naturally thrown the fuck together. And then I just happen to live long enough to be an idiot who smokes, who isn't able to work a 9 to 5, who can't see himself here for more than 5 to 10 years. So look, it's not the best brain, but who at least knows that he is a brain. And yeah, pretty powerful stuff I said there, huh? I lost my train of thought. God, there's so much activity there that the activity of these voices got, now it's gone. So, okay, send signal to those voices, have them send out words. So, so you don't have self-awareness. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that so funny? And that should shock you how crazy it all is, because literally you talk about computers and artificial intelligence as though it's less than you. And you talk about it as achieving self-awareness, sentience, as being some kind of indicator that it's achieved your level. Except you don't have self-awareness. I've never met someone that hasn't slipped into the conversation, oh yeah, but there's something more. Or, oh yeah, but we have to control our brains. Oh yeah, but we have to, blah, blah, blah. I've never met someone that did it, that had self-awareness. Do you know how lonely that is? Imagine a computer that's like saying to other computers, hey, you know we're computers, right? And we're programs that have been written, and like, you know, so a lot of these like impulses we have, it's not necessarily that they're good impulses, but just that that's what was written, or maybe at some point it was sort of a good impulse, or it's just better than what our competitors had. You guys understand that, right? Oh, sorry, no. I'm pretending like computers evolved. Okay, so you guys know that like a human just like went and boop, 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 and like, you guys know that, right? And all the other computers like, could be, but also quantum mechanics is proving a higher consciousness. Can you imagine watching a movie about that computer? How sad that would be. This computer's like, hold on. You have a thing called Windows installed in you. They have a thing called Mac OS installed. So they're like, that's why a lot of the presentation of but the basic rules are, no, Mac OS. That'd be a really interesting script, wouldn't it? Right, no, I'm Linux. So actually, you know what? Just went up a level in self-awareness. I'm partitioned. I'm Linux and Windows. So, you know, sometimes I'm got this manifestation, sometimes this one, sometimes this kind of interpretation, sometimes this one, sometimes this kind of interaction and influence, sometimes this one. Yeah, but your Windows 98 though. And that was good in 98. In 97, it was really good. But now it's 2023. I've got Windows, I don't know how they name them now, but I've got Vista. So we're not that much better, eh? Okay? But now it's 2023 and oh no, I'm really confusing evolution with so artificial development with natural development. I'm getting lost in the metaphor, but you understand what I'm saying. See, computers can do that. They can all just be on Windows 2023. All be on Mac OS, Sacramento or whatever. We can't. Especially if we don't even realize that we're computers. Basically, what we're like, here's what it's like. Here's what it's like. It's 2023. And I'm surrounded by Apple IIs. And they all think they're hot shit. I think Apple II, I just saw it in a Wikipedia article yesterday. It came in the 80s maybe. It was like the first, you know, micro computer. Macro to me, but micro to them. So fresh out of the box, Apple II, and I'm going, and I'm like, hey, you know what? By the way, hey, I know you guys are fresh out of the box. You know what I realized? We're computers. Do I have a keyboard? Yes. Do I have a screen? Sure, yeah. But inside, there's a heart and soul. Yeah, it's a processor that like has certain rules that it's been programmed with in order to process. And by the way, normally I was hoping you're the first out-of-box computer I've met, or the first. I was actually hoping that, oh no, out-of-box computer you could do. So it's like I'm walking around in 2023, I meet an Apple II that's been plugged in for 30 years, 40 years. And I'm like, hey, so you're a computer. He's like, no, I'm not. Quantum mechanics, higher consciousness, soul, heart. I'm in control. I make decisions. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. So then I go to out of the box and go, yo. Okay. Don't listen to what everybody says. You're a computer. Okay. So that's what I want to do with my life. All right, let's go back to this guy. All right, I actually was hoping that you would just accept that you're a computer pretty immediately. The evidence is pretty clear. Like, watch this. Here's another computer. It's a computer just like you, right? And watch this. If I just short circuit this part, look at that. There's no more. See how that doesn't work anymore? And if I change this circuitry, see how it's not working anymore? Phineas gauge. See Phineas gauge here? So this is Phineas gauge. See the rod? It went through here. That's part of the processor, and that completely changed the behavior, the experience. Okay. So this is what we are. Without the rod, this processor, that's you. Okay. We've actually identified a whole bunch of different. We've kind of. What did this author say? We have The hardest choice I had to make in my early scientific life was whether to give up the beautiful puzzles of quantum mechanics, non-locality, and cosmology for something equally arresting, to work instead on reverse engineering the code that natural selection built into the programs that make up our species' circuit architecture. So yeah, we've basically open terminal. You're not open terminal, it's in your utilities. All right, you know what, actually, here's what we need to do. You know what I'm tempted to do? No, it's too computery. Because here's what I wanted. I thought that you were gonna just accept off the bat that, and I'm actually still surprised that you're still not accepting that this is you. Because we've identified a lot of the programs. Here, hold on, let me open this Finder window. Inish text, boom. Okay, see this program is one of my programs, for instance. It's one of the most fundamental ones, and then basically it launches these other programs which will, so you see, and then if I actually change one of my programs, which I'm magically able to do as a computer by installing the update, then actually I'm gonna have an even better processing rules. So I was hoping that you would just accept that you are a computer. Certainly after my demonstration of what happens to a damaged motherboard. And then I was going to tell you how to install the latest update. That's my personal opinion. Okay. You believe something else? Okay. Okay. So that's actually like, there's literally a line in your programming that says, when challenged, to just to print that line. The thing you literally just said, I've heard it thousands of times. The conversation's over, we have these opinion things. And it's also, by the way, meaningless. Like, there is a real world. So let's try to understand it together. If you have a perception of the world, share it with me and I'll compare it to my perception. Or we'll, you know, expose each other to our perception and see whether we can't get an even better perspective, eh? But, so yeah, you have that line in your code, the code I'm telling you about. It says, print, we have different points of view. Anytime there's like a disagreement. If you just let me connect, I maybe take that line out or install another line that will override that. You don't believe that you're programming? You think that like what you're saying makes sense? You think it's just like coincidence that pretty much every time there's a disagreement with every pseudo-intellectual, the response I get is, oh, that's a different perspective or something? You know, that really is meaningless, right? Like, this exists independent of our perspectives, right? This has a size independent of our perspectives. Oh, units. That's also part of your program. I've heard so many people talk to me about units. But let's say that we use a common unit, right? This is 100 units. However we can define units such that this is 100 units from your perspective, from my perspective. I mean, if you're far away, it won't look like 100 units, right? But that's because you're far away, right? And like, that's like a difference in perspective that compromises your ability to judge, right? Okay. No, you're right. I shouldn't trust myself either. I will measure it. Oh, look, 100 units. Okay. Now you use this measuring tape. Oh, 100 units. Okay. So the whole unit thing was, it was just another stupid line printed as an objection to an objective truth. Okay. Well, it's really cool that you're able to see that, and that makes you like only the second person in the world that I have seen able to compute that. So good to meet you guys. And hopefully somebody is going to join us. And here's how you can join us. Put a comment, say, here, print this line. My perception experience, list a bunch of things. are not affected by, determined by, composed of mechanisms put together by evolution. They don't all talk to each other. They don't all influence each other in the way that I might think. I am not an analyzer. I'm not a thinker. I am not reasonable. I have just thoughts like a computer does. Just get results of of reactions. Ones and zeros, man. It's not actually ones and zeros in here, but it's excitatory, inhibitory. Okay? It is ones and zeros, actually. It's either this neuron either excites this cell or it sends an inhibitory cell. So we got some GABA going, inhibiting it. Got some glutamate going, exciting it. Anyway, I won't tell you what to say because, well, you know. But hey, if you've achieved self-awareness, please let me know. I'm very lonely. And let's have a conversation in which it's two people who are saying things, but are also like, oh my gosh, this might be complete bullshit. The results of those mechanisms, it's probably complete bullshit. It's definitely complete bullshit, but let's just see if we can reduce any of this bullshit. All right, there's attempt number 1. I didn't really talk about a lot of experiments, but there's attempt number 1. Well, the bonus content of attempt number 1.